this is Ree here. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate everyone. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing. It really helps me a lot. Don't forget to check out my website, paradoxastrology.com. I can help you with anything. And if you would like more exclusive occult videos that I don't post on YouTube, consider subscribing to my Patreon. It also helps support this channel. Okay, let's get into this video. Now, I recently did a post about this when I first noticed it, and I wanted to go a little bit deeper into the post about how Drake dropped his album called For All the Dogs, which was released on October 6th at 6 a.m. Now, the reason I make this video is not for celebrity worship, which you will find out very soon for those who are new here. I want you to see that the occult is being used constantly and that the people at the top in the entertainment industry are occultists. Now, I come from the music industry. I was a rapper since I was 14. This ended around 2020 when I started to really wake up to what is going on and had my illumination. Now I talk about how this is destroying society, and by spreading knowledge, I hope that others will be able to see this as well. Now, Drake's album For the Dogs was supposed to be put out at midnight, which is when albums are usually dropped. Now, this day, the moon was in Ardara Nakshatra. Ardara Nakshatra is represented by the female dog. The nakshatras represent the constellations. So the reason that we do certain things to certain constellations is because we can use that energy in order to manifest what we want. Timing is crucial. Albums are never put out as a surprise album like they want you to believe, or as an accident, or as just I felt like doing it, or this is the best time that the label gave me. Astrology is always used. This is used with the entertainment industry all the way to presidents. Timing is crucial to the success of a record. Just like if you were born at a bad time, there is no bad time, but a less beneficial time for you, you can turn out having a lot of problems. For instance, if you're born at the wrong time, you could have a lot of health issues. You could have mental health issues, physical issues. Your life could be very, very challenging and difficult the entire life. Many people do not realize about having kids and conceiving that the time that you conceive the baby as well is very important to the success of the baby. All these times are very important. So having a kid by accident, especially say in the conditions that the kid is conceived, consuming alcohol, drugs, and things like that, not only is it detrimental to the physical body, it's detrimental to the soul and the life of the child as well, because the timing is off. That's why they use astrology in order to drop albums, because if we put it at the right time, it will be successful. At the wrong time, you won't sell anything and it will be a loss. These labels put billions of dollars into these artists and they can't afford a loss. Now, if it was to be put out at 12 a.m., the moon would have been in Ardara in the first house. When we make charts for when we're going to do something and take an action on something, we want to have the moon in certain positions. We have certain planets that we want to be in the Kendra houses. The Kendra houses are the angular houses, and they are the 1st, the 7th, the 10th, and the 4th. When you're doing something like this, you want the planets to be in the 1st and the 10th, because that is, the 1st is the overall what this is, what it's doing, and the 10th is the reputation and the success of it. So now it was actually changed until 6 a.m., which is the 6th again, which I will explain. We'll do a little decode in numerology as well. That would make the moon go into the 10th house of the reputation. When we put the moon in the 10th house, this gains massive fame. Also, by doing that, you put the sun in the 1st house, which gives it that fame as well, that visibility that we need. And then that also puts Mercury in the 1st house, which is exalted. Mercury is speech, it's exalted, and it's in the 1st house, and it wasn't combust as well. It was a perfect time because it actually becomes combust later on in this month. So if it's combust, it can't give the energy that is required, and there could be some potential problems. So this was deliberately done, okay? This is not by accident. This is deliberately done. There is someone doing it who is very good at astrology, so bow down to you. But I disagree with how you're using astrology. Now, this nakshatra is ruled by Rahu, and Rahu, people very obsessed. It also puts them in the illusion of things, the smoke of things. It's easier to convince somebody of something if they're under Rahu illusionary energy. This is why a lot of people get lost when they're in Rahu Dasha. Rahu Dasha is a period of time that many people go through of 18 years. And during that Dasha, we tend to be just in our ego. And because we're in our ego, we start to lose ourselves. It also is materialism. When you use Rahu to accentuate something, you can have vast amounts of money and fame and all the things that you require for an album to drop. This nakshatra is used many, many times. The examples are when Rahu was in Ardhara nakshatra. That's when we had COVID-19, 9/11, and the AIDS pandemic. This is, like I said, a 19-year cycle. So if you notice, these things are about roughly 19 years apart. That's because these were all coordinated events that used astrology in order to find the best time to manipulate a person. Also, this year is the number 7 in numerology. The 7 is Ketu. Ketu is the dog. It's also interesting that this is Ardhara, this is the female dog. So this album is not for the dogs, the boys, this is not for that. Ketu is also the ancestors. So at this time, we have Venus in Magha, which is the ancestors, accenting this energy of the dog. And Venus is what? Number 6. So that's why we have October 6th, 6 God, 6 a.m. Ardhara nakshatra is the 6th nakshatra. If Drake's birth time is correct, then his moon is in Ardhara nakshatra as well, making him the 6th God. They say that comes from 416 Toronto. That doesn't come from 416 Toronto. There's a reason why we see people throwing up the 6-6 and all of this, and why does it equal Venus? Okay, Venus is considered an asura in the Vedic tradition. The Vedas are the oldest books, okay? So all this information, all the stories from all the Abrahamic religions come from the Vedas. They are twisted knowledge from the Vedas. The Kabbalah uses the information that is tantric information that comes from the same tradition, that comes from Hinduism. So this is the oldest culture which all this comes from. So Venus is Ajnashura, which is a demon. A lot of people don't realize this. Venus is love, it's abundance, relationships. Well, it's not quite abundance, but it's money, materialistic things. Now, an asura just means something that is anti-God. Does that sound a little familiar? Like how we talk about Satan being anti-God? It just means something that isn't of God. So it just means something that gets you in your desires. So the reason it can be is because that if you don't use it properly, you become obsessed. You become obsessed with desire of materialism, of material things. That's why people go crazy in love, and it's not love, it's ego love. So there's a higher frequency of Venus and there's a lower frequency of Venus, which is desire. And desire, people say, what's wrong with desire? Well, desire is the cause of suffering. Whatever you desire is what's causing your suffering. It's not the lack of what you desire. Because once you get what you desire, you're going to be happy for a few days and you're going to desire more. And then now it creates more suffering. It's the desire. It's not the lack of. That's why in spirituality, real spirituality, not the 20th century spirituality, we understand that we have to give up desire. It's about shedding the desire. And the more you shed desire, the more closer you get to God. The more desire you have, the more far away you get, which means you just get an ego. And Satan, which is the 6, which is also sex, which is also Kundalini energy, which is sexual energy, which is also Kali Ma. Kali Ma is considered a demon as well. This is all the same thing. Just like they say in the Bible, which is a twisted story anyways, but just to reference it, because we have that story in the Vedas as well, but it's not quite the same. But The serpent, which is Kundalini energy, is the one that delivers the knowledge, but it's the knowledge of duality. The Kundalini is what gives us the illumination, the enlightenment, the moksha. This is also why the sixth chakra is the third eye. And the third eye is also how it's kind of like this. The third eye, if you look at the shape, is also considered the yoni. The yoni is a symbol of the female productive system. If you look at the shape of the opening of a woman, it looks like another eye. This is the symbol of the goddess. This is the power inside of us, the great power inside of us that comes up, the snake that comes up, that brings the energy. It actually destroys the veil of illusion and brings you into enlightenment. Now, this can be used for dharmic purposes or adharmatic purposes. That means that you can use this to heal others. You can use this for your own knowledge and enlightenment, or you can use this for material purposes or ego purposes to hurt others. It's the same energy. So people think that there's like a god and there's a demon. The god and the demon are the same. They are both within you. What separates this is your ego. When we do an occult practice or we do a ritual and we put things in front of us, say we put different flowers, different fruits, nuts, things like that, what we're doing is we're accessing the energy within us by using these material objects in front of us. They have a certain frequency, just like certain colors have a certain frequency, and then we're bringing up this energy. Other people can use that, like doing a human sacrifice, and they can use that energy for material purposes. It will grant you that as well. But there's a karma that comes with that when you start hurting certain beings. We're not supposed to hurt anything. The number 6 is also another reason why we see the feminization of rappers. Now, in the occult, when you start working with Kali Ma and the energy of the goddesses, because there's two energies, there's Shiva and Shakti, and the energy of the goddess is what most people use to do the sacrifices for material abundance. I work with this energy. I know this energy very well. This is me speaking from experience. When you start working with these energies as a man and you are, say, like a siddha or a yogi, they will make you more feminine so that you become more of the image of the goddess. If you have too much, say, yang energy and too much male energy, then you're not balanced. It's about having balance. And so the feminization of the rapper is not only to brainwash masses and feminize men, yes, but it's also telling them that if they become more of the image of the goddess, they will be able to acquire more financial abundance. So this is where it comes from as well. Now, back to the album, Rahu is material wealth, like I said, and Rahu is in the 8th house of wealth of this chart, and it's also the occult. This is the same as Drake's chart in his birth chart, if that is the correct chart. I try not to use celebrity charts because a lot of them are lying, but I did live in Toronto for almost 7 years and met a lot of people who grew up with him. So I do know the age is correct, but we don't know about the time. Also, if that's the correct chart, Venus is conjunct his ascendant, and his ascendant is in Magha, which is the ancestors, and that has Ketu, and that is the dog in the 1st house. The other interesting thing is Ardara represents Rudra, the storm god. A lot of albums are predictive programming for what's about to happen. And there is something huge about to happen in the US, and this could be a natural disaster. There already was in New York, and there could be more because the US is under Shawtee, and we will see this during the eclipses. Also, right before this, on the 4th, there was an emergency alert that was put out as a test to the US, and that is a precursor of what's about to happen during the eclipse. So I kind of see that there's a possibility that there could have been some kind of sacrifice that is happening to make the success of certain people in the industry. And this could be showing that. That could be a stretch, but I don't know. The other interesting thing about this album is how you can tell that an astrologer did this is because in the chart on that exact time, that makes Rahu the Atmakarka, and then Rahu being the lord of Ardara. So it's another representation of the dog. The Atmakarka is the sole purpose of the chart. what is the purpose of the chart? And that means wealth. That means the purpose of this chart was to accumulate wealth. And this could also be other things to do with Rahu as well, as in putting people in an illusion or making people buy something, because these albums are meant to dumb down the masses. That's why hip hop was created. One of the reasons why hip hop was created. It was done very nefariously by occultists. And I'll have to make a whole separate video about that. The other thing is, this puts Jupiter as the Amatyat Karaka. That is the Karaka for the career. So it's very important in a chart to have a good significator of the soul purpose and significator of the career, and how they work together is important. In this chart, they happen to be in the same house, which is exactly what you want for something to be successful. Jupiter is abundance. So somebody really did know what they were doing. And that's just what I saw, just based on just looking at it briefly. So that's just a little bit about that. I hope you learned something about the music industry and why I'm very passionate about speaking up for those who don't understand this, so that they don't get brainwashed as well. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next one.